What's going on YouTube? 0088 here, and we are about to review Terminator Dark Fate.
I'll be back.
How do I feel about the Terminator franchise so far? Well, Terminator 1, brilliant. Terminator 2, amazing. I loved those films when I was growing up. They were just perfect films. Everyone was great in them. Linda Hamilton was like a feminist character before feminist characters were a thing, before it became a trend, which it is nowadays. Like Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor was the epitome of strong female character who actually had character, you know what I mean? The rest of the Terminator films, not so much. Rise of the Machines, I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember watching it. It wasn't too bad, but it just felt unnecessary. Basically, I feel like after Terminator 2, when they stopped Judgment Day, that was it. They didn't need to do anything else. Once you stopped Judgment Day, everything else just seems like it doesn't feel authentic. And unfortunately, Dark Fate feels like one of those things where Terminator 2 Stop Judgment Day just doesn't feel like it's needed, but I'll get into that later. Terminator Genesis, rubbish. What was it, Salvation with Christian Bale? It sucked. So, you know, those films just don't feel needed. I haven't seen Salvation, Rise of the Machines in a long time. Genesis I saw not that long ago. I remember Khaleesi in that. She didn't feel like Sarah Connor. She didn't feel that believable as Sarah Connor. Very similar to how Danny Ramos didn't feel that great in Dark Fate in this film, but I'll get into all that. Right, let's go into it. Before I tell you what I didn't like, I'm going to go over what I liked in this film. And this film wasn't bad. I'd actually say it was quite a solid movie on its own. As part of the Terminator franchise, it just didn't, you know, hit the right notes for me. Like, it just kind of sucked in terms of the Terminator franchise as a whole. Terminator 1 and 2, still my headcanon, especially after what they did to John Connor at the beginning of this film. Right, obviously I'm not going to spoilers straight away. This is a spoiler review. What I liked though about this was, first of all, the CGI to make Linda Hamilton look young and Edward Furlong look like a kid again. I mean, I don't know what they did, if they used any like current images of Edward Furlong for that scene, or they just used the old images, but it looked amazing. Arnold didn't look that great, young Arnold. I've seen him look better when they've used that young technology. Like, young Arnold looked a bit weird look. It didn't look like it was him. But anyway, Linda Hamilton and Edward Furlong looked amazing. That was good. I really liked, what's her name? Mackenzie Davis? I was watching my girlfriend and she even said that she looked very like attractive yet strong. If you're going to have a female action hero, she has to be believable, and she was believable. And I'll get to the unbelievable ones in a bit. I really like Mackenzie Davis, even though everyone was making fun of her, saying that she looked like a tomboy Justin Bieber, but I think she was still pretty good. Another thing I really loved in this was the storyline they did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he killed John Connor at the beginning of the film, and when we finally reveal him as an older man, so their age, they're meant to be built as realistic as humans as possible, so they give him proper human tissue. So he actually aged, but not only did he age, but the chipset, this is what I loved about it, the chipset helped him learn about human conditions. It was probably the most interesting part of this movie. This is the whole film. If it wasn't for this, I don't know, this trend that we're in to just like constantly be focused on strong female characters all the time, I think they would have made this a Logan type story with the Terminator, where he's learned, he wants to repent for his sins. It's all about his redemption. And it connects perfectly with T2, because in T2 the Terminator learns from John Connor. The Terminator learns that it's not just about this mission, that he learns, you know, the funny phrases, hasta la vista baby and all that kind of stuff. He learns to be a little bit more human. And that was just like in a very short space, in a few days in that film, I believe. Whereas this Terminator had like, what, 30 odd years to grow, you know, or 20 years to grow, you know. And it felt believable because they've already established that in T2. I love the fact that he was a family man. I love the fact that, you know, he had like a wife, but then he couldn't really sleep with her because it was like 400 pounds. I don't know if the Terminators have penises. I think they do, but I don't know. Like, it would have been like, she doesn't know I don't think she knows he's a robot. I don't know what the family know, but they didn't really go into that. But all that kind of stuff would have been an interesting dynamic. He was funny, but not in a Marvel way where they just make funny characters that shouldn't be funny. He was actually just, he had the deadpan humour and the brilliant timing that Arnold Schwarzenegger has when he wants to be funny. And he just was funny naturally. He wasn't trying to be funny. He was just natural, you know, and it made sense. You just believed he was probably one of the best characters. This was, you know what this was? This was Linda Hamilton's story. This was the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger's story. This was their closing. That's why I thought this film was quite solid, because of those two. Mackenzie Davis was a good visual, like how strong she was, how she was kicking ass. I like the idea that she was a human and she was transhuman, like with a machine or whatever. That was interesting. I also liked the filming. The filming just made it way more fun to watch. Like, the action was shot brilliantly. You know, the evil Terminator that was trying to kill Danny Ramos, he was just like ruthless. He just kept coming and coming. Still doesn't hold a candle to the original T-1000 from Terminator 2. You know, that one is still scary as hell with his spiky ears and his running. But this new Terminator is getting close. He was pretty ruthless, but still, and the action with him was just epic. The fight scenes were really cool, but it could get to a point where towards the end it got a bit too over the top with the helicopter scene, and everything was all like, it was all dark, and then they were fighting underwater. It got a bit too much, and I was starting to zone out a little bit there. I kind of lost interest a little bit there, but apart from that, the action was shot brilliantly, and you could see everything that was happening. It was really good. But yeah, to what I didn't really like about this film, the Danny Ramos character was just kind of completely useless. Do you know what she was? And it's a real shame. They want to make it seem like she's this, like, you know, she's this female Latino representation of a hero character. Like, we need representation. They go on about this all the time in Hollywood. Turns out she's the worst character of the whole film. Turns out she's not interesting at all. They killed off John Connor and replaced him with her. For what reason? Like, because we need a female version or something? To make some kind of... This is what happens when you try to force like a feminist or political statement in a movie. Sometimes if it doesn't fit the storyline, it's not gonna work. You had to kill off someone that was established in like film 1 and film 2 as the hero, and then bring this one in that we have no connection to whatsoever, and you didn't make the film, you didn't like help us have a connection to her in this film at all. You didn't give her many lines. The actress, like, I don't want to blame her too much, but I'm just going to tell the truth, like, she didn't really sell it for me that she could be this hero. Obviously, Sarah Connor in Terminator 1 didn't say that she could protect John Connor until we got to 2, but that's my point. Maybe in a sequel she could be better, but in this film, they ruined it with one particular scene. The scene where it was a flashback to where Mackenzie Davis's character is a young girl, and Danny Ramos comes to save her, and we find out that she's actually the hero of the future. And it just did not feel believable whatsoever when you just see this little 5'1" girl, or 5-foot girl, like kicking all these asses, and with her voice that barely projects, is the leader of all this massive resistance that's going to save humanity. It just didn't feel believable at all. Whereas in John Connor, we never really see him grow up. I mean, when we do, it's a proper huge man with a scar on his face. He doesn't really have much speaking lines. We just see him, that he's this imposing man. In the future, flash forwards in the old film, we never actually see Edward Furlong trying to be a hard man. You know, it wouldn't have looked right. The same with Danny Ramos. This character doesn't look right. If we had tried to see Linda Hamilton, T1 Linda Hamilton, try to be portrayed as this tough, domineering woman out before she had that physical transformation that she went through before we saw T2, that wouldn't have been believable either, you know? Danny Ramos might be able to look like she could lead a resistance, but we didn't need to see that scene, basically, is what I'm trying to say. That scene kind of killed the image. It might have been believable if we have to just imagine it for ourselves. Some things are better left unseen. And then the other thing I didn't like was this big kind of reveal / statement they tried to make with the Danny Ramos character. Sarah Connor was deducting that Danny Ramos was important because she had to do what she had to do in Terminator 2 or Terminator 1, was to give birth to the saviour of mankind, right? And that was her assumption. But maybe in 2010, I would have believed that assumption and I wouldn't have found what they're about to do predictable. Sarah Connor said, they want your womb. They want the man that's going to save humanity. And, you know, all these little key words, you just knew they was going to do a bait and switch where it's either Danny Ramos or a daughter that's going to save humanity. And I knew that was coming as soon as they had that scene of Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton saying all that crap. Because you just knew it was coming, it was predictable. And then it came, and they stopped everything. It felt like time slowed down, music was all stopped. And you had like Mackenzie Davis's character saying, "You're not here to birth some man that's gonna save the world. You save the world, Danny," blah, 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 blah. It was so obvious, they set it all up, and in this day and age, what was going to happen? Obviously, she's not going to birth some man to save the world. And it was a stupid bait and switch. That wasn't a bait and switch because you could see the real bait from a mile away. It was lame. So, you know, it's just, I didn't like that scene. And my girlfriend didn't like that scene, in fact, because she said that it makes it seem like femininity and the power women have to give birth is not important. Like, she liked Sarah Connor's character from the original Terminator films because of her passionate protection of her son and the way she, you know, the way she loved her son and everything like that. Like, motherhood was a very important, you know, theme in the original Terminator film. But they threw it away as if like it's not important that Danny Ramos could be a mother to the hero. Every hero that we know in life, every like great man or woman has had a mother that had to give birth to that person. They're making it seem like childbirth is not important or is not relevant or women don't need to do it. And my girlfriend actually got kind of offended by that. I mean, as a man, I wouldn't even think of it like that. I just thought it was just stupid and predictable, where she had this other take where it was like, it was actually kind of offensive to women, like, and their powers and what they can do, you know. Like, the ability to give birth is unique to them, and they're trying to downplay it like it's not important. So yeah, it was just things like, little things like that, little political statements like that kind of ruined the film for me. I still thought the film was quite solid. It was a good action film. Just didn't feel like a good still didn't feel like a good enough continuation of Terminator. It is indeed the best Terminator since T2. But that's not saying much with Genesis, Salvation and Rise of the Machines, because those were very, very bad and they just got progressively worse. Dark Fate isn't actually a good film, but it just doesn't feel like it's needed in a franchise, especially when you decide to kill off John Connor and just replace him with this Danny Ramos character. Doesn't feel believable at all. That's my opinion on that. Also, what I didn't like was this idea of getting rid of Skynet and then replacing it with an exact copy called Legion. It just seemed pointless to me. Why not just keep Skynet? Like, I get what they're trying to do. The only reason they wanted to get Legion in was because they didn't want to make it seem like T2 was completely pointless by killing off John Connor, by Judgment Day still happening, and they didn't know how to like make it make sense that they stopped Judgment Day, but Judgment Day still happens anyway. So they had to make it a new company called Legion with a brand new future. So how does this time travel, timeline stuff work? Like, they can change the future. So it's more like a parallel universe. There's still a universe out there where John Connor does grow up and save the future, and Judgment Day does happen in 1997. Then there's a future where they stop Judgment Day, it seems like, but it happens later because John Connor probably grows up, and it doesn't make. I think it's like, it must be like a parallel universe timeline, time travel kind of thing, where if you stop one future from happening, another one's going to happen, another butterfly effect happens, which is Legion. But then it's exactly the same as Skynet, which is very unimaginative and stupid, I think. I don't like the Legion thing. And I get it, before anyone says it, I get it. It's like, it's basically a commentary on how, if one person doesn't do it, someone else is going to do it. Like, if Skynet doesn't do it, another company will do it. If Legion doesn't do it, another company's going to do it. I get that commentary, that makes sense. But at the same time, at least make Legion look a bit different. Like, the robots are exactly the damn same. You know, it's just stupid. They're exactly the same. They could have at least had a different design. They made them a bit more black rather than silver. The exoskeleton, or whatever you want to call it. Not exoskeleton. The skeleton, whatever you want to call it. They make it this. It's the same design, just different colour. It's just, It's just silly to me. I don't like it. It's just not fun to watch. You just change the name of something and make it the exact same threat just to fit your new storyline, you know? Like, I'm not really looking forward to a sequel. Like, I was wondering how Danny Ramos becomes a leader, and I do like the ending with Linda Hamilton. She's clearly going to train Danny Ramos to become the leader of the Resistance. But why? This could have been John Connor. Why replace him? Danny Ramos, she was just basically a MacGuffin. She wasn't important. She was the Infinity Gauntlet. All she was an object. She didn't have a character, you know. Mackenzie Davis, her protector, had more of a character. I feel like she should have been like the Danny Ramos. She looked more like a leader that could lead the Resistance and humanity, you know, to safety or whatever in the future. What this film could have been is something so epic with Arnold Schwarzenegger's storyline. That could have been like a Logan type movie where the Terminator's learning about humanity. It could have been a story about how it learns to be a good person and it goes through its redemption. That could have been the storyline we followed rather than this protecting Danny Ramos, the same old shit we've seen in Terminator 2 and Terminator 1 all over again, you know? It was literally like T1 and T2 put together. Like, you had the Carl Reese character, Mackenzie Davis, you had Linda Hamilton playing her role again from Terminator 2, the same role, and you had the Terminator again from Terminator 2. It was all the same shit all over again. It was fun, it was solid, but it wasn't anything new and exciting. It seems like the same old shit, just shot really well and looks really pretty, you know what I mean? There was one other criticism I had. Everything about Linda Hamilton, the Terminator, the T-800 or Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, and yeah, those two were great. I loved that her dynamic, like she really wanted to kill him because she killed John Connor at the beginning. I thought that was actually interesting. But what I did wish they just added a little like sprinkle of salt on of Linda Hamilton's character Sarah Connor acknowledging that, oh wow, the Terminator can learn, and connect it to Terminator 2, because in Terminator 2 she learnt that the Terminator can learn and the Terminator could sort of love, like the way it became friends with John Connor. Like, she saw that in Terminator 2, and I wish she sort of like acknowledged that in this film, because like, I get it, she was really angry, she wanted to kill the Terminator for killing John. She could, like, in real life you probably wouldn't care about what you'd learnt before, but it'd just be nice little throwback Terminator 2 that she acknowledges. She could still acknowledge that the Terminator can grow and kind of grow something of a conscience, but still want to kill it. Like, for example, the scene where I think Mackenzie Davis says, I think she says, I can't remember who says it, but I think she says, "You grew a conscience?" She said something like that. And then the Terminator was like something of like a conscience or whatever. Like, I can't do Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice for whatever. But he says something of a conscience. And then Linda Hamilton's character had come in and said, "Yes, it happened before with John. Blah, 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 blah. That it can learn our human traits, but it doesn't mean I won't kill you." Like, just something like that. Just an acknowledgement. That would have been cool, just to see that she understands what it can learn, you know. That would have been a nice little, it's a minor thing, minor nitpick, but that would have been cool. But yeah, you got my review. Terminator Dark Fate was a fun watch. I'd recommend going to see it in the cinema, but it wasn't needed in a T2 in a franchise. It just seemed like they're trying to reboot the franchise rather than continue it on by killing off John Connor like that. Like, Terminator storyline ended at T2 for me because they stopped Judgment Day. If you stop Judgment Day, it's done. They've changed the future. They've changed their future. And bringing in Legion or bringing in some new threat just feels tacked on, you know. But yeah, I'll give the movie overall a 6 out of 10. But I enjoyed the action. That's what really boosted it up for me. The storyline was weak. It was basically a repeat of Terminator 1 and 2 put together. But the action, the way it was shot, the character development of Linda Hamilton, the character of Mackenzie Davis's Grace, and the character of the older Terminator that learned, all of that was brilliant. That was the story they should have focused on. The story of trying to protect Danny Ramos and stopping Legion was like useless, but the characters of the Terminator, Linda Hamilton, and even Grace, Mackenzie Davis' character, was actually quite interesting. Danny Ramos' character was lame. But yeah, that's my review. If you liked it, give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications, and I'll see you again. Peace. Peace.
And then just as Thanos is about to take it, Thor attacks. He's seen enough. And Thanos owns him quick, grabs him by the skull and shouts,
"Fool, now watch as I destroy your people."
Then Heimdall, Valkyrie, Hulk steps out ready to fight. The Black Order attack them and overpower them with ease and knock them out. Hulk takes them on and is putting up a good